Hey Pottery people, welcome back to Pottery Plus. We are going to attach a handle to a mug today, and this is the rolled handle that I showed you. So if you've seen that video, this is kind of a continuation on what you could do with that rolled handle after you've got it completed. Okay, let's get started. Okay, let's get started attaching our handle. First things first, shout out to my best friend Kara in Seattle who sent me this apron. I love it and I love you. Thank you so much. Okay, so to get started, what we need to do first with this handle is you can see it right here. Well, it got a little long on me to start with, so I need to cut off quite a bit of excess down here. But what I like to do with my handles as I'm letting them set up is I give myself plenty of extra right around here and I can stick that to the board so that my curve of my handle can kind of start getting into the memory of the clay. But now I need to get rid of quite a bit of this. So to cut this off, normally I would do this with the handle facing myself, but so that you guys can see it, I wanted to turn it towards the camera. So if my hand position here looks a little weird, it is, but it's just easier for you guys to see if I'm holding it facing away from myself for this demo. So what I'm going to want to do here is I'm going to cut this excess off, and then I'm going to cut the end here into an angle. So I'll show you what I mean. So first I just do a real simple cut to get rid of the excess material that I don't want. Okay, so now it looks like this. It's starting to look a little bit more handly. Might still need a bit trimmed away. Do one more pass like that just to take away some extra. When it's just a small little piece, it's a little harder to do. Okay, so it's looking a little jagged, but that's okay. We're gonna take care of that in the next step. So now I'm gonna cut this end into an angle where the, gosh, this is hard to put into words, like so many other things. I know I say that all the time, you guys. So I'm gonna cut the angle down and away from myself. And I'll show it to you kind of like in profile to start. So now it's just a real straight cut. So what I will do next is cutting kind of down and away from myself. I'm going to get an angle into that. Oh, that didn't work, you guys. All right, so the angle that I tried to cut it at first did not work because I was trying to point it towards camera so you guys could see it. So I'm going to cut this a little differently than I normally would, but the important thing is that you see how the angle is cut in the end. So we're going to try it with an X-Acto knife, leaning the knife back and at an angle, like that. That worked out much better. Straighten it up a little bit, but then that should give enough of an idea of what I mean when I say to cut it leaning back at an angle. So it's gonna look like that, okay? So slanted forward towards what will eventually be towards the wall of the mug. All right, so next I'm going to do what Daniela and I have lovingly come up with to call this is place and trace. And this is a part that's pretty tough when you're learning to do handles because you've got to hold the mug to its side or whatever form you're working with and sort of place where you want the handle to go and then trace around those attachment points so you know where to score. So it's gonna feel awkward to be holding it on its side like this. But, you know, if you turn it up like this, your handle can fall. All right, so what I'm doing now for my place and trace is I've kind of pressed the top and bottom attachments of my handle up against the mug to see kind of where I want them. So now I'm gonna look at it from the side and make sure that I like the profile, and it's looking fine. So I'm just gonna go ahead and sort of form that top and bottom attachment to the roundness of the mug because what we've cut so far, we've cut straight across. Like when we cut that angle, you know, it wasn't formed to a round form yet. So you wanna, to give yourself the best chance of success here, kind of wiggle and press that up against the wall so it starts to get some roundness to it, okay? So that's the placing part. And to trace, I'm just going to use my needle tool and trace around. And some people don't get like as precise about this. That's fine. I just like, there are certain things that I like to do the easy way, and some things, you know, we all have our own little things like that. So I like to be pretty precise about where I score, but if you want to eyeball it, that is just fine as well. Okay, so I'm tracing around. And now I'm just going to remove this so you can see I know exactly where my attachments are going to be. Next, we're going to scratch and attach, or otherwise known as score and slip. A little more technical term for it. Scratch and attach is kind of what we use with little kids, but you know what? It's cute, and I'm feeling cute today, so let's just go with it. Let's scratch and attach, babes. So to score or scratch, I mean, it's pretty straightforward. The only thing that I see sometimes people doing is just not being aggressive enough about it. So make sure that you are really agitating the surface, because that's what gets the two surfaces to intermingle and stick together. So I'm just gonna scratchy scratch till that's all filled up. Now, we use the term score and slip, but today I am not gonna be using slip because, as we have discussed before, my clay is still got enough saturation to it that I don't need to add a lot more moisture. So slip can kind of help you with that because it infuses moisture into the surface as it's resting on the surface. But my clay has still got a good bit of water in it, so I don't really need that heavy addition of moisture. So just a little water is gonna work fine for what I'm doing right now. And I like to also scratch in opposite diagonal directions because I feel like it just really gets that surface stirred up well. This feels so awkward doing this like this. But we do what we have to do for our videos, don't we? Okay, so that's looking pretty good. So I'm not even gonna add water or kind of what I'm using as my slip today to the handle. I'm just gonna add it to the mug because I'm just feeling like that's gonna be plenty of moisture. But please adjust that to what you need. Drier clay, you might need more, or the addition of slip. Really saturated clay, you might need less, okay? So it's all, it always has its own context to what you're doing, okay? So now is where I'm going to obviously attach these two together, but this is the part where I feel like we start to doubt ourselves because we think that it's gonna slip and fall off. So I'm gonna try to give some tips along the way so that you can confirm you've got a good attachment that's sturdy and also looking great, okay? So my first thing here that I always taught my students, and I do this myself too, you guys, is I start with my top attachment because it's bigger. So kind of once I get that one well attached, it's going to give me stability so I can work on the bottom. So I'm gonna push those two surfaces together, and now I'm like slightly wiggling. All right, so I've wiggled and pressed that handle up against the wall. Now, if your mug is too soft, this step is not gonna work. So you've gotta make sure that you have it at the appropriate level of dryness. Again, a hard thing to put into words, but you can see I can touch this, I can move my fingers over it and it's not making a mark. So that's a pretty good indicator, you know, of when would be a good time to add a handle, okay? So I've done my press and wiggle. Now I'm going to put my thumb on the inside of the mug where the attachment is. So about right here. And then with my, what finger is that? Index finger?
Pointer, yeah, index is pointer finger.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then with my index finger, I'm going to squeeze in between those two to get my top attachment really nice and sealed up. Okay. Now I'm doing this upside down again because we're shooting a video. We're kind of holding it to the side. Normally I would hold this upright and hold it with myself on eye level to do this part. So if it's looking a little weird and mangled, again, this is just for educational purposes. So stick in there with me. So I don't need to do as much work on the bottom attachment. I usually just press it down like that and that's fine. And it will stick. This is always sort of the more finicky one. But I'm feeling like it's on pretty well. It's looking a bit messed up just because of the way we had to do this demo today. But overall, It's got a nice arch here. It's got some breadth to it. It's got some lift. It doesn't look like it's hanging on by a thread. And so now I'll show you just a couple little finishers that you can do to give it a little finesse, and that will wrap it up. Okay, so I've taken a minute to clean this guy up a little bit so I could hold it where I could see it and kind of just adjust the curve and you know, all that kind of stuff you do, fiddling around with the handle. So now to finish this up, I'm gonna take a damp paintbrush, and to clean up those edges around the attachment, I'm just gonna take that damp paintbrush and run it around those edges just to smooth it out a little bit, okay? Now some people really like to work their attachments in where they blend in like seamlessly. If you are a person who likes to do that, more power to you, but we're just gonna keep it simple for this demo today and just kind of leave those edges visible, but clean them up a little bit, okay? And that pretty much finishes it up for this guy. I am gonna let this dry upside down just to reinforce this curve. I mean, it's looking, oops, just dented it with my nail. It's looking fine already, but sometimes with a handle, it just, you know, to have gravity sort of pulling down on that curve, just make sure that it doesn't look like it's slumping or drooping at all when the product is done, okay? Oh, and also you guys, I pressed down this bottom attachment a little bit more, so it made it look a little thinner and just a little more delicate down there, because I did sort of a thick to thin progression, like it's kind of that traditional method of making a handle. If you're doing something different, I love it, more power to you, but I just kind of tried to keep it simple for this. So that's gonna wrap it up for our handle attachment video. I hope you found it helpful and enjoyed it, and I cannot wait to see you back in the Pottery Plus studio next time. And let us know if you have any feedback, okay? Drop it in the comments, find us on Facebook at Pottery Plus or Instagram at Pottery Plus Co. Have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for joining us. Bye.